This is the stuff dreams are made of. I'm writer-collector Ryan Condal.
And I'm writer-collector Dave Mandel. How you doing, Ryan?
Good, Dave. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Happy early Sunday morning. Well, as always, I am just out of bed and half awake with one cup of coffee in me and a very, very strange hairstyle, and my lips look very red in my camera image. So I don't know. It's cold here in LA.
Yeah, and I've been up for 14 hours and I'm already strung out. Yeah.
It's the perfect meeting of two minds. So I think it's really, really good. As always, we like to start with what's new in props, and I'm a little jealous of your what's new in props, which I got a little sneak peek of. You want to tell the audience what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, there are benefits to being a good client of our favorite sponsor, Prop Store. They've been always been very good to me. I've always gotten, great pieces out of them and great friendship. I mean, I really do, consider, the principals over there, and actually a lot of the staff, because I've just gotten to know them, very good friends. We're just, we all have common interests. We hang out. And occasionally you get invited to cool things. And the other night, I actually got invited out to a dinner because, Adam Savage was in town, as was the entire Tested crew, to do the promos for the November auction. And
that's really cool.
And they were around, they were producing, and they kind of said, hey, they're fans of the show, and we were talking about you. And I was like, holy shit, I'm a fan of them. And they're like, well, come out to dinner. And we just had this great kind of, banquet style dinner. And I got to chat up.
Hold on. I want details. I want real details. Where did you have dinner?
At Prime Steakhouse in just outside of London. Yeah, it was very fancy.
Like a fixed, like the food came and was put down, or you got to order individually?
No, we got to order. I got mocked for ordering chicken at a steakhouse.
Who ordered the chicken? You ordered the chicken?
Yeah, I ordered.
Are you
chicken.
Not eating meat right now, or you just were
oversteaked? I just for whatever reason that night, and you get into your 40s and bodies start changing and whatever. And it was a late dinner, and I was like, I don't want to, indigestion and whatever. So I ordered the chicken, and I got a lot of, fair ribbing from everyone. I was drinking beer and everything. I was hanging out. Right. I wasn't like having seltzer water and all that.
I was drinking my mocktail.
That's
my chicken and mocktails.
My near beer. And what
did Adam Savage eat? What is he?
It was a great steak. I mean, everybody at the table, there was a full cow slaughtered at that table, and I had the one sustainable chicken, that semi-sustainable chicken that ran through there. I got to sit with Norman Chan, who is the producer of Tested, and then of course right across from Adam, and we were just exchanging stories and talking about the stuff that they've seen, and this crazy, and it was really great. We got to talk about podcasting, and which was exciting, and collecting, and working for ILM and Mythbusters. I was a fan of Mythbusters. It was just
very jealous, very
yeah,
jealous.
It was just really great fun. And Adam is such a raconteur that you can wind him up. You can just like kind of throw a topic at him, and just like he will have something to say and a story to tell. And I was just doing that all night. And it was really just a delightful experience and dinner. And he's so deeply knowledgeable too, and so passionate, about all this stuff, that it was just it was a great time.
That I'm very, very jealous, but and I'm sure our audience is too. But there's no need for them to be jealous, because we've got ladies and gentlemen, special guest, ladies and gentlemen,
That's
Mr.
right.
Adam Savage. No, sorry.
Oh
no,
it's not gonna happen.
Sorry.
Kenny Rogers?
No. Gotta know when I can't. It just broke. It broke, and I kept thinking they were going to send me a bunch of them, and they didn't. I really don't. I feel like Julian's lost a real opportunity.
I think they've actually removed you from the mailing list. That's what
very possible. You know what? Maybe it's for the best, because those catalogs are giant. Just giant. And
I stopped getting them when I moved. I still get Heritage tracked me down, but I just stopped getting Julian stuff when I moved to London. I've also
go ahead.
I haven't been a great customer of Julian's. I mean, it's not like I've done anything bad.
I've been an occasional customer. But the catalogs are so big, and they're hardcovers, and you have to you take an X-Acto knife and I cut out the catalog part so I can recycle most of it, and then the
Yeah.
hardcover goes into the garbage. But it's a lot of work. I'm just going to
Yeah.
say honestly, it's a lot of work. I have a very quiet week. I don't have much going on in the prop world, but as we speak right now, this is on a Sunday morning. I'm actually bidding, oddly enough, on a little teeny tiny auction, which is Heritage is actually doing an auction. They have a couple of show specific auctions. And I don't know if you watched it. Did you watch the new Fletch movie with John Hamm?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
It's really enjoyable.
Oh, really? Okay.
I had the sort of not pleasure of, I was a writer on Fletch at some point about, I don't know, 10 years ago. That
the many attempts to continue the
yes,
saga.
exactly.
Okay.
And I'm very, very jealous because when I tried to do whatever I tried to do, the response was no. They wanted it bigger, and I guess more at the time Warner Brothers-y. They wanted the Sherlock Holmes version of Fletch, if that makes any sense.
Save the world.
And I understood it, but it was not what I loved about the books. And they've basically adapted the second Fletch novel, Confess Fletch, a couple of little changes here and there that I can notice and remember. But really, really very exact and precise. I mean, in a lot of ways, and it's really wonderful. And it's not Chevy Chevy was great, and that Fletch was great, but it wasn't exactly the Fletch from the books. And I was a huge fan of those books, as are a lot of people, and it's just really fun and nice. Anyway, they're doing a Fletch auction of that, just stuff from that movie. And there's a driver's license with John Hamm on it, with a sort of a joke from the movie where his driver's license kind of has him yawning on the driver's license. So when he gives over his driver's license, it's a picture of him kind of like yawning, and then he kind of yawns. Anyway, it's a cute little joke in it. But I don't know, I got a kick out of it. I threw a very minor bid on it, but it's sort of happening like as we speak. I am currently the high bidder, but the live bidding has not, or whatever, the action has not started yet. I'm assuming I will lose it, but I threw a number on it just to.
Do you have anything from the original Fletch?
I don't. I've never seen anything from the original Fletch that, I mean, honestly, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I don't think I've ever seen anything to even go, oh, that's not the thing I want. So that was definitely a movie I've always thought of. It'd be fun to have like even just a call sheet from, just because it's a tough movie prop wise. I mean, maybe there's business cards, like an Alan Stanwyck business card or something like that. Or I don't know. That's a tough, I mean, again, we've talked about comedy movies are hard, and that's a real world comedy movie. That's a tough one. Maybe there's a fake ID of some sort, or something that he shows, or something that they made but doesn't get screen time. But yeah, it's not a prop heavy movie. So yeah. You ever seen anything from that movie? Just even in do you remember?
I can't even think of anything. It's funny because whenever I hear Fletch, this is sort of not dating myself, but placing myself generationally, because that movie was sort of before me. My first exposure to Fletch was watching Mallrats, the Kevin Smith movie, a million times, because when what's his name, Jason Lee, breaks up with Shannon Doherty, one of his many demands to her when he wants his stuff back is that she still has his copy of Fletch. And he's very aggravated about
Kevin, as memory serves, who also, by the way, I think was a writer on an aborted version of Fletch at some point or another. I can't remember when Miramax had it or even before that. And the list of people that worked on Fletch at different times is I'm very proud to be on the list of failed Fletch writers. But Kevin is a huge Fletch fan. Actually, a gazillion years ago, when I think he and I first met, it was one of the things we sort of one of the many things we sort of hit it off on. But he credits it with just why and how he writes dialogue, just that he feels like he learned, again, I'm putting words in his mouth, but he's given quotes to that extent that he learned to write a lot of his snappy dialogue from the Fletch books. And like I said, the movies, I think they're all interesting in their own way. I really like this one. I love the original Chevy. The second Chevy one is not a good movie, but has some really funny one-liners in it. But the books are fantastic, and I highly
I've never read them, but I should probably
do yourself a favor. It'll be a very pleasurable couple of weeks while you work. You'll love them, and you'll work your way through them, and then you'll be sad when there are no more left.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
But
well, great. Well, I hope. Do we have a show today? What do you think, Dave?
We do. We have a surprise. For once, this is very exciting because for once, a guest that we're saying is coming, who it kind of sounds like we're joking that isn't coming, is actually coming, which I think is a
He's
first
here.
on this show. He's actually here. We actually have this guest that it seems like we don't have, that we've sort of been making fun that we aren't actually going to have him, but we actually have him, which is very confusing, but we actually have him. Please welcome to the show, Adam Savage. Adam,
Hey!
thank you for being real, Adam. Let me start
That's
with
right.
that. Thank you for being real.
I'm
Our
delighted to be
our
corporal
listeners
today.
are shocked. Yes, they're just shocked that you're real. So
they've pulled over,
yeah,
and put it in park right on the motorway.
It's a beautiful cold morning here in San Francisco, and
yeah, it's freezing
I'm
here in LA
so
too.
psyched
Yeah.
we're able to chat about all this nerdy shit that we're about to
This
go
is really
into.
exciting, and also you're going to build us a third co-host. Is that correct? You're going to build us. Is that? Am I understanding this? Do I have my notes correct? No.
No. I can only build you the simulacrum of a co-host. You can only refer to him. You can't ever.
That's okay. We could just have a box with a guy, a thing that looks like another guy in it. Occasionally, maybe a girl. That way, we could be occasionally like, "Isn't that right, Miss?"
Collapses. Yeah.
He will also defeat Dave in the contest.
Yes, a lot. Boy, the new co-host is popular.
Really popular. We have a promotion going, Adam, with Prop Store, where basically you can do a buy now option with Dave 10 or Ryan 10, and you vote for your favorite host of the podcast. In doing that, at the end of the season, they total it up and they come on live and tell us who won. We did it last season, and I got
won murdered
by a margin. Murdered. So I'd be very curious to put the manufactured host up against and see how he does in the mix. But so Adam, I mean, there's a million things that we could talk to you about on the show. There is one main topic which we've already teased, which you're going to talk to us about. Just before we get into it, I imagine a lot of your audience and the Stuff Dreams Are Made Of audience probably crosses over a bit. You have a much larger audience than we do, but can you just briefly tell us your history in the sort of real prop making world? Because you actually come from legit stock. You come from prop royalty.
Well, what a lovely intro. Yeah, so I was always encouraged to make things. I'm the child of a filmmaker, animator, painter, and a psychologist. That sounds like 4 people, but it's just 2. I worked in theater in the 80s and the early 90s, which led to working in commercial special effects, and then about a decade in film special effects. And I've made props for a couple hundred commercials, over a dozen movies. Some of them I would watch again. And
what's the best movie? Really quick, what's the best movie you worked on ever in your mind?
Galaxy Quest, 100% Galaxy.
I'll go along with that.
Fantastic,
great movie. Yeah.
I was only on that show for 2 weeks, but it's by far the best film I watched.
It counts. Yeah.
Did you keep anything?
No. What I built was the super close-up part of the Thermian dock, where all the Thermians are standing watching as the ship scrapes its way out of the dock. And that piece, actually, I believe Prop Store has that piece for sale. I just haven't figured that it was worth it to me to pay for something that I built 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's George Lucas's problem, actually, where he doesn't really, all Star Wars stuff, even if it's missing in the archive, he kind of feels like he had it. Why would he pay for it again? But anyway, so you two very similar.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
And then in my private life, in my personal life, one of my favorite pastimes is the research and execution of props for myself to a very high degree of a certain kind of fidelity. I am always looking for a personal experience with a prop. So, for instance, like I've got here one of Master Replica's thermal detonators from Jedi, and I kind of prefer this fan-made kit that's cast out of pewter because it's made of metal and it feels like the right thing. It feels like what I want the thing to feel like, and that is kind of the smallest way of describing the sort of experience that I'm looking for when I'm building a prop for myself.
And you were into this stuff before you were even to whatever extent, a professional prop maker. Were you the kid watching movies and like, I'm going to build this, or the teenage, like, where does it start? Like, really?
It starts at no years old. I grew
Perfect.
up on a steady diet of watching Mission Impossible on television with Peter Graves. And I remember my dad decommissioning one of his briefcases. This has got to be the early 70s. And I pulled it out of the trash. I put a plate in it and I cut out a section for a light. I bought a lantern battery and put flashlights. And I made myself a Mission Impossible detonate box with a button that said arm and a button that said detonate. And I like pretended to be in my yard, like the guys from Mission Impossible, like detonate. So that was absolutely my first prop replica, and it's got to be 1976.
Oh, that's great.
And that is also for sale at Prop Store. Very reasonable number on that, coming up in the next auction. So good luck, everybody. Yeah. No, that's excellent. I feel like there is I guess there's something about actually, and there's no other word for it, but as I guess my mother would say, being handy, because I definitely played those same games, but there was just some cardboard taped in, or a drawing of a light bulb. No one was cutting any metal or bringing in lantern batteries in my house. That's all I can say. I just, if my life depended on it, I don't think I know what a lantern battery is, but that is really cool. Yeah.
My dad's all super into that stuff, but I have no capacity for it. Just none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I love about it, though, is that sense of play. It's exactly what's happening when actors are on set, and the set feels real to them, and the things they're holding and working with feel real. The simulacrum disappears almost immediately, and I feel like it's tapping into that same thing our 8-year-old brains were desiring.
No, there is that thing where, when you're in your, a cool enough, I don't know, let's say period costume, or, obviously Ryan, like suit of armor, and you're in a castle and whatnot, it's hard not to, whatever it is, and it works both ways. I mean, even just from the, I don't know if this sounds silly, but from the writing side or the producing side, like, you're in this place and you do start to think about stuff and like, oh, okay, this, because we're here, like it definitely, it is that mindset. But that being said, if someone paid me just to prop collect, that would be easier. But anyway, that right now there's a middleman. Yeah, right now it's a triangular trade situation. But
yeah, you have to work in the movies to earn the money to buy the props
things
from the movies you didn't work on.
You made. Yes, exactly. yeah. Feels like some sort of weird cannibalism.
By that. Yeah. Well, also when I first started meeting directors of bigger projects like Guillermo del Toro or Jon Favreau, and finding out that they frequently had to buy their own props from their producers.
I asked for things and couldn't get them. I was told no, that goes to the archives. I was like, yeah, but it was my idea.
I drew this. I drew it on a piece of paper here. No. Yeah.
That's right. No. So Adam, was it your love of movies that led you to building Mission Impossible briefcases in your backyard that then led you back to, I want to build these things for the movies? Is that sort of the way it went, or was it not that easy?
No, that's a good question. It does sort of come from exactly that, because shortly after that, Star Wars comes out. I'm 10 years old in 1977. And very quickly, I'm buying Famous Monsters and Cinefantastique, and I'm learning that now there's articles about the people that made this stuff. There wasn't for 2001. There wasn't for, franchises before that. There was no behind the scenes of Star Trek except for bloopers occasionally. Yeah. And the moment I realized that people did that for a living, that became something I wanted to do. Like building whole sets and miniatures was what I did with all my Legos until I was 19 and discovered girls.
Were you were in San Francisco? Is that where you were born and raised, or were you somewhere else? No, born
and raised in New York City,
the other way.
Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Okay. Because I was going to say, where were you when you realized, it was just up the road? But that's later on. It was, you weren't just near the.
That was much later on. I moved out to San Francisco in 1990, and I started trying to get work. I made questions out to Lucasfilm, but I was way too green back then. And it wasn't until I cut my teeth for about almost 10 years in theater and commercial special effects that I started to hammer away at the ILM model shop. And by hammering away, I just called pleasantly once a week for 3 months until Mark Anderson brought me in.
That's amazing. And what was the first thing that you worked on?
It was a First National Bank commercial. They wanted this desk. They had an underwater shot of a desk with a shark swimming past it, and they couldn't find a big enough shark, so they had to take the desk they had and give it to me to make it in 1/2 scale. And everything on the desk had to be perfectly matched. I made a banker's lamp that actually lit, and I made the blotter, and I made the pens, and everything 1/2 scale. And then they literally put it underwater in a tank with a shark to make the shark look like it was 25 feet long.
That's so great.
And this was one of those ones where Mark brought me in, and I said, how long do I have to make this? Because that's the first question in commercial special effects. And he said, whatever you can get done in 2 weeks. And this was literally the kind of thing that was like a 1.5 day job in commercial special effects. I was like, I have 2 weeks to do this.
Right.
Oh, this
what time do you need this tomorrow? Oh, wait, I have 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my first lesson that in film you had much longer timelines to work with. As a model maker, it was a dreamy amount of time. I finished it within 2 weeks, and then because it took me so long to get Mark on the phone, I said, "What happens after 2 weeks?" And he's like, "Well, let's see where you go. Let's see what's happening." I said, "Listen, why don't I just show up? And if you've got something for me, you give me some work." And I think I worked there solid for about 18 months after that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Were you when they gave you the job, were you somewhat disappointed that you didn't get assigned Star Wars or whatever was going on at that time, or were you just as excited about doing a First National Bank commercial?
Oh, no. I was so excited about being at ILM. I got on my way to work on the very first day, I got lost, and then I got a flat tire, and I was still 10 minutes early. This is how much being at this place was important to me. And it was a stepping stone. I knew one of the reasons I was hired is because almost every model maker in the city was working on episode 1. This is mid 1998. And because of that, I knew there would be more work, and I just viewed it as my job to prove myself and be as fast and as accurate and as easy to work with as possible.
This is a sort of a slightly adjacent question, but I was always curious. Sometimes, there's that sort of thing of like, I don't know, like chefs don't want to eat their own cooking. And there's that sort of idea a little bit. And on our side of things, obviously, Ryan and I are both in the biz, but like the prop collectors are fewer and far between. And it's not necessarily like, no, why would I ever collect the props? But what I was curious was, in your life in the sort of prop professional world, were you open about your collecting, or not collecting, but just your, like your love of it, the hobbyist in you, like the replica and all of that kind of stuff? And were there like-minded people, or did you find that like most of them were just like, that's crazy, or like, you know what I mean? Like, was there a...
Yeah. It's a great question. There were like-minded people. I mean, Grant Imahara, my late colleague from Mythbusters, who was also a colleague for the better part of a decade at Industrial Light and Magic, was just like me, collected all sorts of nerdery and was totally into that. And
I'm gonna pause you. I'm pausing you for 4 seconds just to say, I first of all, I was lucky enough. I had dinner with Grant a couple of years ago at San Diego Comic-Con through mutual friends, the comic artists Arthur Adams and his wife Joyce Chen, and I got to sit basically right across from Grant, and basically just drove him crazy, basically, like with just so like a million and one questions, and he was just truly lovely and just a real loss. I just wanted to throw that in because he was such a nice guy in one meal, and we sort of left with emails and like, we'll chat again, and then sadly, obviously, no. But yeah, just a great guy.
And that was Grant. Yeah. That what you saw and what you imagined is exactly what you got with him. All that kindness and all that enthusiasm and all that fearless nerdery. was
So
there at
you guys
ILM,
found
and
each other very quickly. In other words, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, and we really we loved the deep cuts, right? If I could make a joke about the glaive from Krull, which was a real deep cut 15
Yeah,
years ago,
until one sold for $56,000 in the last auction. Holy crap! I mean, I think even Grant would have been shocked at that one. I mean, that's just insane. But anyway,
Totally.
sorry, that's just my own
So I
anger.
remember
Yeah.
specifically, I remember being on a job with Grant, and we were working on some part of the Queen ship. And I think this is from episode 1, where R2D2 bypasses a power coupler inside a panel on the outside of the Queen ship. And I'm there with Grant, and we're talking to our supervisor, Michael Lynch. And Michael Lynch goes, "You can just put like a doohickey in there and R2 can touch it." And I said, "Right, but in the script it says that he bypasses the power coupler." And Michael, the supervisor, goes, "Okay, whoa. That's the kind of thing that you two dudes who give a crap about this stuff can worry about. I'm just going to tell you need a doohickey."
So both walks of life at ILM. Okay, that's a very fair. Yeah,
absolutely.
I like whoa.
So you're saying
you two dudes, yeah.
You're saying he was not at home building his Blade Runner gun? Is that what you're telling me?
What did Michael Lynch's Mission Impossible briefcase look like? That's my question. What did his look like? Yeah.
See, the thing about Michael Lynch is he's one of the greatest supervisors I've ever worked with. He is a good friend. And Michael is the kind of enthusiast. His hobby is to get dropped off in some remote location with nothing but the clothes on his back and a knife on his belt and no other equipment, and an arrangement to be picked up a couple hundred miles away, maybe a couple of weeks hence.
To each their own. To each their own. Yeah, I'm going to stick with props, but yeah.
You and me both.
That's excellent. To sort of dive in a little bit, and this was very exciting to us because, we call the show The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of, which I think some of our audience may or may not know that the quote at the beginning of our show is from the Maltese Falcon. And I think maybe mentioned it once or twice in the course of discussing other big props and talking a little bit about the Ruby Slippers, but we've actually never really dug deep on the Falcon itself, and was really excited when you said that you, A, were going to come on the show, but B, you jumped right to let's talk about the Falcon, and that was fantastic. I preface this with, I'm a huge fan of the movie. I'm a huge fan of the book, which, if legend holds, John Huston took the book, tore the cover off, and threw at his secretary and said, "Type this into script form." A huge fan of that. Even went as far as reading the other Dashiell Hammett's tracking down the various Sam Spade short stories that he tried once or twice, a couple of later ones. I can't remember if they were prequels or sequels, but other Sam Spade adventures. And like I said, love the movie. And I have, which I'll try and get a picture of so we can put up. I have from my youth a circa 1982 completely inaccurate, terrible, bought in out of a catalog somewhere. My parents bought out of a catalog, Falcon that is
Dingus.
Completely screen. I believe the term is 100% screen inaccurate. I believe that was its selling point. 100% screen inaccurate. So I am truly obsessed, and I'm just I think we were both really excited to be talking about this. That the Black Bird. I mean, let's just talk about the movie itself for a second. So, is that a movie you see as a kid? Is that where does the obsession start there? And do you come at it as a movie fan, or did you find it as a prop fan and you were excited you heard about a movie with this statue in it? Like, where do you come to the movie? Let's start there.
It started as a movie fan. I discovered that I really loved cinema in my mid-teens, 16 or 17 years old. It was also just about the time cable came online. So, I just remember seeing a shot from Apocalypse Now and having my idea about film having a before and an after. Seeing the shot of Martin Sheen coming out of the water with the camo on his face. And I started renting movies every night. I bought Hallowell's film guide. I discovered that Hallowell hated all of my favorite movies. And so I was like, well, what movies does Hallowell think are good? And that's how I discovered both the Maltese Falcon and the Philadelphia Story, two of my still all-time great films ever made. And I realized that Hallowell was not full of shit. Like, when he liked a movie, it was going to be good. And shortly around 18, is also when I discovered Raymond Chandler, who's maybe the most important author to me in the way that I think about the world. And through Chandler, I read his wonderful essay, The Simple Art of Murder, in which he pays real props to Dashiell Hammett for bringing in the dirty, the grimy mystery novel. I love that Chandler says Hammett, after decades of Agatha Christie and drawing room murders, Hammett gave murder back to the very people that committed it. And I think that's absolutely true. There's a grittiness and a sadness to both the book and the film that is perfectly preserved. And by the way, the idea of Huston giving it to his secretary and saying, just type this into a script form, is only possible with a movie whose plot is as simple and lightweight as, in a way, as the Maltese Falcon.
And I'll throw another word. Yeah, ideal... and tight. I mean, simple but tight, and just and with crisp, cutting dialogue and wild characters that kind of pop up fully formed in a way, which again speaks to the book. Just an incredible book for our listeners who might want to read a book. Yes.
In fact, I love to recommend this to people. It's actually a short book. You can read the whole thing in 3 or 4 hours. And a great Sunday is to read that book in the morning and watch that movie in the afternoon or evening. Yeah. They grid magnificently. The idea that it's Huston's first movie, that he goes and finds a Sidney Greenstreet,
never acted before. Never acted before. Yes,
incredible stage
who literally led his life. Literally, and again, obviously, it was the time of character actors too. But he literally gets this part and then plays it for the rest of his life. He's just Gutman in everything he's ever in. Again, he never plays any other part, which is wild. Yeah.
And you can't read the book. Once you've seen him, you cannot read the book and not grid him perfectly into that role. So my intersection comes through cinema. And then somewhere in the early aughts, I was doing some crafting with my kids with Super Sculpey. And I ended up making my own dodo skeleton, which was not something I thought I could do. I'm a hard-edged model maker. I'm an additive model maker. I take materials and I make them look like spaceships and cars and stuff, but soft edge sculpted things are not my specialty. But once I finished this dodo skeleton, I started to think, well, maybe I could sculpt something really interesting that I like. And that's when I happened on the Falcon. And I thought, okay, I'm going to sculpt the Maltese Falcon. And luckily, even back then, there was tons and tons and tons of wonderful reference online. Ari Chekmayan's resin burr that he found at the LA flea market. There were there had already been some auctions and there had been some activity. And so I used all that reference material to sculpt my first Maltese Falcon, which was about, I think 2007, 2008.
That's really cool.
And the Harry Winston one was kind of a famous prop sale before there were prop sales, right? Because he bought one of the lead ones, which we will talk about, I'm sure, as we get deeper into this.
So I'm thinking of this entire discussion as a soft pitch that there is a real documentary in this subject matter in chasing down all of these birds.
I agree, but it would be a documentary that ends with everyone in the documentary suing the documentary maker and each other. That's how I kind of get the sense, and then Warner Brothers issuing a cease and desist. But that would be the end. Yeah.
And then multiple auction houses coming after you.
It's a very fascinating area, and one of the things that's wonderful about it, I'm just going to say this because it sounds cliched, but it's true. In the movie, here's a spoiler in the book, the movie, if you haven't seen it, and I'm sorry, we are ruining it, is that it builds to, this mysterious package, from what is it, the Paloma, was that the name of the ship, this mysterious package, and they open it up, and there's the bird, and it's allegedly this jewel encrusted gold statue that's been covered up, and they get it, and the greed and the avarice, and he tears at it, and whatever, tries to nick it with whatever it is that he's got, his key or whatever, and of course it's not it. They must have switched it with the hunt continues. And so just a wonderful non-ending ending. I mean, a great ending, but in a way like really almost like a disappointing ending that's so great because you don't get what you thought it's a whole movie about you're going to get this thing and you don't get it, which is wonderful. Yeah.
They MacGuffin the MacGuffin.
But the hunt goes, yeah.
They MacGuffin the MacGuffin.
And the hunt goes on. And in some weird ways, the actual prop is as confusing, and the hunt and the idea of is one of these one of them is that end scene times 20. That's what I love about it and the prop. I mean, there's no other way of sort of that's my horrible bad description, but I kind of stick by it. Yeah.
No, so it is what you'd call narrative Ouroboros. The snake eating its own tail. The MacGuffin is MacGuffin because it's the subtext of a MacGuffin being a hollow way to move the script forward is made textual by the film, and then all of the lore around the various birds. There's probably two lead ones. There's probably more than one resin one. There's a plaster one that's missing. There's a lead one that's missing. And all of this creates, I mean, really, the book originally is about the ways in which the stories we tell ourselves can be poison and can harm us. And that's the bird. The bird is a story, and it still is. The degree to which all of this grids on top of itself, inception-wise, is one of my favorite. It's the reason it's maybe my all-time favorite prop.
The prop becomes almost as interesting as the story piece it plays in the movie because it becomes the movie.
I mean, who even knows in the current prop market? But the bird itself, the falcon, the various ones that sold over these last couple of years were some of the first, like, before anyone thought about props, before anyone cared about props, that's where you were seeing your first, $1 million sale, where the world and like newspapers and magazines set up, now it's commonplace. Oh, there's a prop store auction. Oh, look, whatever, CNN's doing a story about it or whatever it is. But it was, it was just a perfect thing that the Maltese Falcon itself became both of crazy, the props became of crazy value as if they were, gold and jewel encrusted, but also that the world sort of took notice. And that being said, though, a great mystery to it all too. Yeah, that's the other part of it is
and the fact that Winston bought it, the fact that Winston
made
had
a
one
jeweled
and
one,
made
yes, exactly,
their own jewel encrusted version.
Yeah, and it's the what's the backstory on it is it was the gift given by the Knights of the Order of St. John, right, to the King of Spain as a thank you for letting them use the island of Malta. Wasn't that it was like the homage that they paid to the King of Spain for using the territory for the thing. So there's this whole story behind this whole story behind them too. And it's sort of somewhat connected to the history, I think, because there were gifts given to the King of Spain. But there's a whole thing of too. Was there a real, gold encrusted bird that this was all based on? And you could go on.
And there was a real Barbarossa. There was the idea that it fell into the hands of Barbarossa absolutely makes total sense narratively. Yep. It's a lovely left turn. Yeah.
So, I mean, where do we even begin? I mean, the first one that hit the kind of public consciousness to my mind, because it's the one that always comes up in all the articles, or there was that wonderful little book to the kind of paperback that was all about the mystery of the Falcon. The one that they always point to first is the Harry Winston one. So Harry Winston purchased at auction, I think it was at Christie's auction, Sotheby's, one of the big auction houses, purchased a lead Maltese Falcon, which weighed 47 pounds or whatever it was, that was meant to be the the one, as it always is. It's the one Maltese Falcon that was made for the movie, and it sold for like $300,000 or $400,000 in the early 90s.
Right.
I'm
A
talking
shocking
like
number at
93,
the time.
94,
A shocking
maybe that
number.
era.
And
yeah. I mean, the only thing that had ever done that was the ruby slippers, and even that, I think that had only been the Christie's sale in the late 80s, which I think was, $100,000 or whatever it was. So this was a major landmark event from a world famous jeweler. So it made headlines all over the place. So that's kind of where the collectability of the Maltese Falcon comes online. And then other things sort of followed that, and people started digging in, and there were people going back to talk to people that worked on the film. But because that's the first one, why don't you tell us about that bird? What is the story of that one?
As far as I understand, when that bird was first sold, they didn't know that there might be more than one.
Which, by the way, is similar to sort of, as I was going to say, is similar for those of us that paid attention to our Ruby Slippers episode long ago. Kind of the same thing. It was kind of, in some ways, people learning that there are multiple props. But at the time, there was sort of this sense of, here it is. Here's the one. And then that's part of which is, I don't know, part of the story in a way. But again, not as definitive. But go on, yeah.
But it's not only part of the story, but it's also part of the commerce of auctioneering,
yes.
in which you want each thing that is listed in the catalog, no matter how accurately you're going to describe it, you also want people to take away that this is a totally unique item. And so the auction houses are always going to end up giving you the impression of rarity, whether or not it is totally fully warranted. But so this lead bird comes up, Winston buys it. And is this the one that had the dented feather? Or no?
I think that was the one in the
one.
Warner Museum, right? That was the one that eventually was on display in the Warner Museum that the dentist owned. Wasn't that the
one that the dentist owned was a gift to William Conrad? Oh no, wait, the William Conrad's the one that Winston bought.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's right.
So
I think that's right.
This is where I get a little confused.
Right, because
William Conrad was a fixer for Hollywood, and as a gift, Warner gave him one of the original lead birds, and it was in his collection until he died in the early 90s, and that came up for auction.
That's the one that he sold.
That's the one that comes up first. The dentist has another lead one that weighed like slightly more and has the dented feather that they say is from it being dropped.
Bogey dropped it.
Possibly dropped.
Supposedly Bogey dropped it.
And broke his toe or didn't.
Okay, so spoiler, I'm going to show you a failed bird of mine. This is a bronze that I made a couple of years ago. This is correct size. There is no way that Humphrey Bogart ever picked up one of the real lead ones. 50 pounds. This one here is 33, and it feels like a boat anchor.
Yeah, if you said to me that they put a lead one on a table and shot it on a table, or for like, forgive me, the like a credit shot, or
or it's
a logo,
the one that he scraped, right? Possibly
maybe,
it could be the one that he scraped.
I think maybe so.
So I do think the one they spin on the table is the lead one.
Okay.
I think the way that they spin it,
but again, not somebody walking around holding it, going la la la. Yes, exactly, on a table. Yes.
No way. Those
just like
publicity shots of Bogart, he is holding. So very quickly after Winston buys it, Ari Chekmayan, I'm probably pronouncing his name poorly, but he's a documentary filmmaker, finds a resin falcon at an LA flea market, like in 93, and takes it to, I can't remember who did the authentication, but they were able to screen match pits on the surface of that bird that matched really specific publicity shots and shots from the film. I'm satisfied after looking at all that the one that was the resin one, which I think was bought by Leo DiCaprio and a few friends in 2010, is the primary shooting bird. That's the one that I feel is the most unassailably matched filming original.
And that's a plaster one, or what is that the right?
No, it was actually some type of polyester resin. You can see in the auction catalogs, it's got some cracks across the wing and across the chest, which is, I think that tells. I've never held it. I've never seen it in person, but that my guess is that it is probably some type of polyester resin.
That's funny because I wouldn't have even thought, and obviously Adam Savage knows much more about model making than I do, but I would have not thought that a castable resin would have existed in the 1940s. I wouldn't have thought that that was a thing.
Yeah.
I would have thought you were making something out of plaster or, I would guess plaster. Maybe did fiberglass even exist back then?
Fiberglass. I ended up doing this research and I'm not remembering because my brain is old, but I was surprised that resins did exist back then. And you would want to use something a little more durable than plaster for a shooting original, but sure. I know there was at least one plaster cast because it was here at John's Grill in San Francisco for many years until it was stolen.
It was stolen. That's the one that was stolen, right? Yes. That was a plaster one. That one.
That was a plaster one, and it was given to him by what's his name? The actor that played Peter Lorre's henchman,
Elisha Cook.
Oh, Gunsel. Yeah,
Elijah Cook. That's it. Yeah, and so he apparently had one from production that he gifted to John's Grill. It got stolen out of there one night in the middle of the night. It got stolen, and that one has never been found.
Now, do you think that was used? Do you think that was used on film? And would there have been at that time? Would there have been a reason that you would use the plaster one versus the resin one? Because they're both, in theory, the lightweight version that you can carry around.
Yeah, part of me, just having been in a special effects studio, would assume that they would use a specific casting material for their favorite shooting master, but that they probably cast a few others just for safety's sake. And plaster is about the simplest thing imaginable. So I didn't view it as too much of a stretch.
They claim in the records that there's like a record of 4 or 5 plasters being made, and then these other various plasters have shown up, including supposedly an unpainted one that Warner Brothers may or may not still have, at least in this one article I read.
But every picture I've ever seen from the Warner Brothers archives is not the right bird. That's every picture I've ever seen from Warner Brothers I think it's the casting from the Blackbird.
The Blackbird, which is something we should point out to the listeners who maybe don't know. In 1975, there's a parody movie called The Blackbird that is basically. Is George Siegel? Is he the star? Is George Siegel? George Siegel as Sam Spade Jr. This is the Sting 2 of the Maltese Falcon. But basically, he's Sam Spade Jr., and I think Elisha Cook is in it, playing the same character who's now, Gunsel's much older now, and basically he's still hunting for the bird, but it's a comedy. It's in that same period as like Murder by Death, and they made the Blackbird, and there's a couple of others like that, where they're all sort of these sort of charming detective parodies kind of a thing, and it's right in there. But they made Falcons for that as well, and of course those are also at Warner Brothers and mixed in. And then I'm going to throw
they don't look like the Falcon from the original film. There's quite a lot of topological difference.
There's just a difference to them, but also isn't there a little bit of a difference in the sculpt too? Kind of the way.
Significantly. The where the hero Falcon in the film has feathers that are. Well, here, I'll hold up my favorite sculpt. Here's my first sculpt of the Falcon. The feathers are implied by these triangular voids. There's more dimensional feathers on the wings, and in that the Blackbird's wings look closer, but the chest is completely different.
The chest is wrong. It's up here.
Yeah. It's all the feathers are dimensional and sort of laid over each other like scale mail.
So feathers. Wait, when did you make that one? Show us that one again? When is this one from?
This is the one I sculpted in 2007.
So this is your first sculpt when you decided you could, like, off the dodo bird, you're like, I can make one of these. And this is
Indeed.
it. Wow.
And this was a couple of weeks of printing up all the reference material I had to full size and using calipers and sculpting every single feather and every single detail. I love it. Yeah, this thing is in my head in an abiding way. Most of the ones I've seen from the Blackbird, most of the ones I've seen in Warner Brother archives, I think are from the Blackbird. Ryan, you asked about John's Grills. The one I've only seen a couple of pictures of that Falcon, but it looks like the right one to me. It looks like it looks like a casting from the original bird. And I've seen very few of those.
So would they have again, forgiving my model making knowledge, would they have cast the plaster one and the resin one out of the same mold? Could you use the same mold to use for those both materials?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They probably used a gum latex for the mold, but I'm not exactly positive.
Okay. And so question also going back to the lead one, is it possible that if there was a lead one, that it was just the mold master, that was the original thing that they made, but they wouldn't, right? Because you would have had to cast that too, right? If it was lead, it would have been cast, because you wouldn't sculpt in lead.
But if I'm a prop guy, I'm not going to worry about casting in lead myself. I'm going to send one of my plasters to a foundry, and they'll do a multi-part mold of that. This is what they do all day long, and so they'll use their process to create a couple of lead, probably lost wax castings would be my guess.
Lost wax, okay. And that's where
or are they lost? Dun dun dun. Oh, sorry.
No, they are, because they literally melt in the process, Dave. But thank you. But that's where they
out of bismuth. And you could melt it in the shower.
Well, because this is a sword making technique that I know a little bit from just doing the show. But one of the ways they make the furniture for the sword is they will cast it in that like blue wax, and they sculpt it out, and then they put a mold around the blue wax, and they pour hot whatever into it, bronze, lead, but whatever and then it fills the mold, melts the wax away, so the wax disappears, and then the metal fills the mold. But then I get, but okay, so if you were making a cast to pour plaster or resin into, would you have used the lead one to do that in theory, the hero, or the first one, or is there probably a clay thing that they're doing there to make the mold in that time, or is that?
That's a really good question. I'm not exactly positive. We have the receipt from John Huston for Fred Sexton's original sculpt, which I think is like $75.
Right. Yeah.
If I remember.
Yeah. Amazing.
So now that you're asking about that procedure, I haven't ever thought all the way through this, but sure, I would imagine if you wanted if you knew you wanted one in lead, you would take your master and just bring it right to a foundry. They would have all the mold making skills, because you didn't have a lot of special effects shops back then. You had studio shops, but their expertise I doubt would have gone all the way towards lead investment casting. But if you went to a foundry, you could ask for, hey, once you guys have cast your wax masters, can we borrow that mold, and we can cast some resin ones and some plaster ones out of that mold? That's entirely plausible that's how that chain of events went. That the foundry was the first hire. In the process of making a lead bird, they had a mold. That mold could have been used by production to make more birds.
Fred Sexton, just to sort of fill in for people, was a friend of Houston's and kind of an LA kind of character / artist, or artist / character. Do we know anything about what his original sculpt was? Do we know what he used? Do we know anything about his materials in any way, shape, or form? Because in theory, there would be this original, again, probably maybe not black, maybe, I mean, who knows? I guess we don't really know, right?
I'm looking up. I mean, my guess is he would sculpt it in clay. Fred Sexton's also a particular weirdo. Turns out to have gone to some sex parties with George Hodel.
I was leaving that part out a little bit. I was trying to cut
the Black Dahlia
one
connection.
Lawsuit out of the equation. As it is, I think we're gonna get sued by everyone that owns one of these things. But yes, he did. Yes, he did, and ended up kind of decided at some point it would be more convenient for him to live in Mexico in the later part of his life for who knows why. So we'll just leave it at that. Decided it might not be better to be near the laws of the United States. Yes.
Judge the mold, not the mold maker, Dave. That's my rule.
By the way, in the special effects industry, when there is something that is like you really want, what you say to somebody else is, maybe this could fall into some rubber. And that means we'll make a casting of it. We won't tell anyone, and we'll each get one.
Well, I'm going to bring up something that was not in any of the articles that when we were doing a little bit of research that I did not see, but was told to me anecdotally, and I was curious if you ever heard. There's a mention in one of the articles. I think it's the Vanity Fair article that kind of digs into all of this stuff, and when talking about I guess the one that was the Conrad one, which was supposedly from a gift from Jack Warner, it mentions this idea that Jack Warner occasionally gave these things out as gifts. It brings that up as a concept. A million years ago, before I lived in Los Angeles, on a visit to Los Angeles with my family, took at the time the Warner Brothers studio tour, which was this different kind of tour at the time. I don't know what it's like now, but they didn't really have, nowadays there's like this Warner Brothers museum that they take you into and stuff. None of that existed. The tour in those days was a small, almost not a VIP thing because anyone could sign up for it, but it wasn't like, Universal buy a ticket. You kind of had to call up, see if they had space, make a reservation, you'd show up, and then basically usually it was like 2 golf carts of people and 2 different guys kind of drove you around, and they sort of said, and they prided themselves that every day the tour was different because it would depend on what was shooting on the lot on that day, and they would kind of just drive you around and show you stuff. So that was the old, again, tour. This would have been in the, I'm going to say the mid 80s, maybe, let's say somewhere in there. And one of the guys, the guy that was giving us our tour, and I've never forgotten this, he was something that had, again, I wish I could remember a name. I might be able to spot him if I saw pictures of the various guys. But he specifically talked about that at the end of production, they made a Falcon gift that they wrapped up in the same sort of burlap and newspaper and gave to people as a gift. And the way he described it, and again, I wasn't into props in the sense of, I didn't go, excuse me, was that from the mold or not? So I didn't ask those questions.
Are you talking about the black bird?
But the description, the way he described it was, for lack of a better word, as if it was from the mold. Again, as I think back, that it would have been pulled from the mold, much in the way we now have 4,000 Thor hammers. A pull,
Those are all real.
They're all real. They're all from. It's an amazing thing. They're all from Thor 2, and they're all real. But it is this thing of, and again, it's not something that has come up in any of the reading I've done, other than that mention of Jack Warner giving out perhaps some gifts later on. But this idea, and again, he made it sound like it was very VIP and that it was very high end, because obviously you're not going to wrap them up, but it was an incredibly specific description of a sort of a high end crew gift. So let me start with, have you ever heard of it? Does it help explain anything? And again, I know we're just extrapolating, because that has always wondered about that as I've read all of these stories. So
I'm going to try and tell this anecdote with no identifying details.
I'm going to sue you. That's enough. I'm going to sue you. I'm suing you. Cease and desist. I'm suing you. Yeah.
I have a good friend who is a highly placed professional in the film industry, worked on a large film with some lovely props in it. When he finished making the film, he asked the head of that studio, hey, could I get one of the props from the film? And the head of that studio sent a friend the hero prop, like had it just sent to them. So this does happen. That totally happens. And I've read that story about Jack Warner, about some crew gifts being made from the molds. My issue is I have never seen, aside from the 2 Leadbirds, and I've seen pictures of both of them. One of them resides now in Steve Wynn's office in Las Vegas. I don't know where the other one is. Gary Milan, the dentist in LA, might still have one. I don't think he does, though. I think that one's sold. Anyway, I've known that there are 3 birds. I've seen 2 lead ones and the resin one that Leo DiCaprio now owns. And I have never seen another casting ever that was clearly from the original molds or of the original bird. Every other casting I have ever seen is either the wrong bird or somebody else's sculpt.
Gotcha. Because there are those. There's the guy, and what's the guy that had the allegedly 3 resins and sold 1?
Is this Hank Risson down in
yes,
Santa Cruz?
Exactly. So without getting sued by him, have you ever seen pictures of those birds?
I have seen Hank Razon's, I've seen pictures of his birds. I've seen his 70 some odd page PDF about his belief that that bird is from the original molds, and he has a whole explanation about that. I don't want to cast aspersions. I cannot see the original bird in the pictures that Razon has shown. He's invited me down to go see them, and I have not gotten down there, which is crazy.
This is definitely gonna. You're gonna have an even better invite.
You guys got to come up and let's do a road trip, because I think this is worthy.
Part 2.
I think we could do a fair bit of driving between here and Vegas and LA and cover a lot of ground.
I know Steve Wynn. I actually met Steve Wynn many years ago, so I've got an in with Steve Wynn. I think maybe he'll let us in, and then it'll be funny when we murder him and steal the black bird. That'll be very cool.
I'm very good friends with Leonardo DiCaprio, as you know. So I think we can just hit the cycle.
A 3-city heist. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
I mean,
and then we kill each other in jealousy, kind of a Treasure of the Sierra Madre kind of. It's mine. All 3 of them are mine. Yeah.
What I'm hoping is that Leo DiCaprio is the first person to own one of the Falcons that he's even remotely close to my generation. I hope that someday a casting of Leo's resin bird shows up so that I can know that I'm holding a direct lineage casting. I have yet to do so. I've had an audience with a couple of birds that are interesting, and I've had an audience with one I can't talk about. But I have still never seen an original casting from the studio molds, and I would dearly love to. As you can imagine, having sculpted this thing twice, like every feather and every part of its gesture is somewhere in my head.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Adam, did you ever see the one, because not that you would have been able to handle it, but you would have been in its presence, the one that was in the Warner Brothers studio tour? It was in their prop museum for a while. I believe, in my head, I saw it, and I believe that was the one that had the dented tail feathers, because they had the whole story there of the bird, and there was a question as to whether the dented tail feathers had happened in its custody at the museum because it was on loan from the private collector. I believe that's why I believe it was the dentist one, because I think he loaned it off to the museum, because there was this great story that possibly apocryphal. The insurance policy that he had taken out on the bird was so the prop was so high that and versus what he paid for the prop, because it just kept increasing in value over time, that when the studio tour damaged it, it paid out to him a damage policy that was more than what he paid originally for the thing, even though he still owned the prop and it was there. But I have no idea whether that was apocryphal or not. But I believe that one, it was one of the lead ones, was on display at the Warner Brothers. And this would have been, within the last 10, 15 years, because I saw it.
Because the museum hasn't existed.
Correct. My time at LA. Yeah. Dave, did you see it going through there or no?
No, I've never, other than, like I said, I went to that tour a million years ago and despite living, I mean, literally, I can almost see the Warner Brothers lot from my house. I've never gone back, and I need to and should.
I have pictures. I have at least 2 or 3 pictures from that tour, and the bird I have a picture of isn't the right one, but it could be from a different time. Also, Harry Anderson of Night Court fame, famous juggler and comedian Harry Anderson, who after retiring from television and Night Court opened up a antique store in New Orleans, claimed to have been given a Maltese Falcon, or claimed to have stolen one when they borrowed it for one of the episodes of Night Court. And Harry claims to have spirited it away. It was apparently in his antique store in New Orleans for a long time, and then it was washed away by Katrina. And I corresponded with Harry because we had mutual friends, and he had no pictures of it. So I can't confirm at all what lineage bird Harry had until, and I've never been able to find a picture from the inside of his store.
Oh, what a great story, though.
Support for The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code PROPSPODCAST. That's PROPSPODCAST, all caps, at manscaped.com. And if my math is correct, That's 12 million balls, or I guess counting that friend of mine, 11,999,999, because he got hit there when we were like 10 years old. But anyway, that's still a lot of balls. All righty, everyone. It's that time of year for giving, and whether you're celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, or Festivus, everyone should participate in the 10 Days of Giving by Giving Props. That needs to be fixed. 10 days of giving props, maybe, or 10 days of giving ... props. Anyway, we'll work on that. What better way to show thanks to friends and family than by giving them a uniquely different type of gift that means a lot to everyone listening to this podcast, a movie or television prop? I think I'm going to give props to my children this year and then take them back. Given the budgets can be tight around the holidays.
Have they been
bad? Yeah, exactly. Hey, kids, Merry Christmas. Here are those props you didn't want. Don't worry, you can leave them in Daddy's office.
Don't touch them.
I know I said they were yours. Do not touch them. Given that budgets can be tight around the holidays, we wanted to provide you with 10 stocking stuffer gift ideas that you can purchase for under $100 from the Buy Now section of Prop Store's website. Go to propstore.com right now to order the following. Ryan reads evens, Dave reads odds. I don't think I'm supposed to read that part. This needs to be such bigger type. If whoever Prop Store, start sending this in 18-point type, because I cannot see a word of this. Go on.
So you could buy them money. We have an item called the Amero bills from Elysium. Everyone loves money for the holidays. These come in denominations of 1, 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100, $1,000, $9 each. Collect them all.
Pounds,
at the very least,
pounds each.
£9. £9. Yes. And at the very least, whatever you pay for them, we know they're more valuable than Bitcoin at the moment. So.
Another item. Who are you going to call? No, not Ghostbusters, but Elton John. If you give someone Taron Egerton's Elton John business card from the movie Rocket Man from 2019, 44 pounds, fits right into the stocking. Your kids wake up Christmas morning. Oh my gosh, Daddy, Santa got me Taron Egerton's business card from Rocket Man. I'm so happy I didn't get the PlayStation 5 game I wanted.
So exciting. You could send them a Superman Christmas card from 1978. Do you need a Christmas card for comics fans? Send them a vintage Super Christmas card, which was given to personnel involved with the first two classic Superman movies. Yeah. That's 45 pounds.
That's actually cool. I like that one.
That is cool. Yeah.
Magic Mike Strip Club Flyer 2012. What type of prop to get your wife? Why not bring some spice to her holidays with a flyer featuring a manscaped, nice tie-in, Channing Tatum from Magic Mike, also 45 pounds. No, that's $45. That one's dollars. $45. These aren't cheap. These are cheap. These are good. These are actually, these are starter props as well as great gifts for the kids, I will simply say.
And if you're hungry, everybody likes chocolate in their stocking. You could get a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory Wonka Bar wrapper from the not a Wonka Bar Raptor. Although that might make those Jurassic Park movies better. From the 2005 film Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you could choose from Whipple Scrumptious Fudge Mellow Delight, Triple Dazzle Caramel, or Nutty Crunch Surprise. Those are $75 each.
And a great opportunity to teach your kids all about the Johnny Depp trial. That's it's a learning moment too.
We call that a way in.
Hey kids, I want to talk to you for a second about that chocolate bar and the man on the picture of it, the man on the wrapper.
Check out my Scrumptious Fudge Mellow Delight.
Star Wars: The Phantom Menace ILM VFX crew shirt. Do what Dave Mandel would do. Am I supposed to be reading this one? I don't know. Do what Dave Mandel would do and dress your child in a Star Wars shirt that not everyone will have. A rare crew shirt from Episode 1, $75.
That is a good call.
Yeah, that is very good.
Or if you know someone that wants to be a writer, get writing tips from a House of the Dragon co-creator by giving them this script titled The Emerald City from episode... Oh, look at that. Hey. Season 3, Episode 6 of Colony, written by one Ryan J. Condell.
I have to pay $75 to get a Xerox of one of your old scripts.
Yeah.
Will you just send me a PDF of that, please, so I can read it.
I like these subtle backhanded insult of the fact that my stuff fits nicely into the under $100 stocking stuffer category. But I will actually say, I wrote a lot of scripts for Colony. I mean, obviously oversaw the whole show, 36 episodes, whatever, have a hand in each as the showrunner. But in terms of the ones where I'm actually credited as the writer, meaning I wrote the thing from beginning to end, nobody else ever touched it. Right. I have to say Emerald City is my probably my favorite of the things that I wrote for that
nice.
show. So,
and maybe
so
if
check
someone buys the Emerald City script and gives it to their child, and their child wants a Ryan autograph on it, I'm sure we can make that happen
for another $75.
I noticed that there were, by the way, the London Comic Festival or Comic Con was going on this weekend, and there was a bunch of House of the Dragon guys there signing, but you were not. You were not there signing pop toys.
No, they're not. They're not impressed with me. They just want to meet the people they see on the picture tube in their living room.
Such is our lot in life.
Yeah.
Princess Diaries production parking pass. Is your daughter named Mia? Anne Hathaway stars as Princess Mia in the holiday classic that is bound to be loved by every princess named Mia. They're actually making a third one of those, or they're writing a third one of those. That was just announced. This, by the way, is a great starter gift if your child is thinking of getting into the transpo unions, which is a very, very powerful union that keeps, especially in America, really... If you don't, the transpo guys don't like you, nothing good happens on your set. So that's
very true.
It's a very good lesson if you're interested in the film industry. So parking pass, you can play transpo driver, and I think it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's $95 US.
And then from the great Alex Proyas directed I, Robot, you can get a foam scotch bottle. Know someone that loves their scotch and their movie props? I do.
And foam.
And this one checks both boxes at $95.
It puts new meaning into the Ibiza foam party because it's a foam scotch.
Well done.
Bottle. Thank you. And finally, number 1 on the top 10 stocking stuffer gifts to ruin your kid's Christmas, The Mummy Returns Rubber Tomb Scorpion. Nothing scares the crap out of a child when they reach into their stocking and pull out this realistic-looking rubber scorpion. At least they should be thankful they didn't get a lump of coal. Just $95, but the memories are priceless. That's a good list. Yeah,
that's a good list. Yeah. So as you do your holiday shopping on PropStore.com, don't forget to use your discount code Dave10 or Ryan10 to get 10% off your entire buy now order and vote for your favorite The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of podcast hosts. It's your civic duty to elect your favorite podcast host for season 4. By voting and using your code, you'll also enter yourself in a drawing to be a guest on the season finale of this very podcast. It doesn't matter if your purchase is $10 or $10,000. Voting is half the battle.
But if you spend $10, put Ryan 10 in, and if you spend $10,000, try the Dave 10 code. It doesn't matter, but that's what I would do. Merry Christmas.
So, presuming that both of these birds were actually screen used, I think I've actually been in the presence of 2 of them, because when Bonhams auctioned the, I think it was the Leonardo DiCaprio bird, right? That was about 10 years ago.
It was like 2010, yeah.
Yeah. They had their preview gallery on Melrose, right? Isn't it? It's in Hollywood on Melrose.
On Sunset.
Sunset. Okay. And they had it out on display. It was out. You could go there and walk around. It was in the 3-inch bulletproof case.
It's so funny. I think I actually did see it there too. I didn't remember seeing it till you said it. And of course, what I was disappointed by was that, it was like, in a case under like glass or plexi or whatever. And of course that you couldn't just like take it out and like take a picture with it, and hold it and kind of, do your own version of the bogey shot and whatever. Because that's, at some point it's like, I'm never going to own it, but I want a picture of me holding it. Right? Yeah.
But what you're bringing up is that it would be great to actually take a casting and put it on a rod so that you can go up to it and look like you're holding.
Oh, so it's sort of right. It's like there, like that. Yeah. The one thing that's just wild that we were just sort of, I don't know, musing on, Ryan and I a little bit, was just the idea that, again, back to the ruby slippers, there are all these ruby slippers, but they are all 100% like they are the slippers. Like there's been a lot of mystery about where they were and a left mismatch with a right, but the slippers are the slippers.
And is it Judy's or is it the dance double?
Like which,
or
and who and what.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, what size, and what did she have 2 sizes? Because sometimes, her feet were a little fatter or whatever. The thing here with these Falcons is, on our best day, we're still kind of going, we think it matches the movie. Like that's as close as we get. And it's probably right, and we're pretty sure it's right, but I feel like the best we can still say is 99%, even on our best one. I don't know. Do you feel, here's the question to you, Adam Savage. Do you feel 100% sure that that lead one is the one, at least in those shots? Do you feel 100%, like no doubt? Or just curious. And again, obviously, legally, I'm going to hold you to this and sue you, but go on. Yeah.
So, I am confident. Here are the things I am confident of. I am confident that the resin one found at the flea market that Leo DiCaprio currently, I think, owns, I believe that has been screen matched to my satisfaction as a primary shooting hero.
Okay.
I cannot remember if either of the pictures I've seen of the lead ones, to me, ring very true to the original. They feel right. And so I don't have any issues believing they're correct. But tell me, because I don't remember off the top of my head, do either of the lead birds have a knife mark on their chest from the scraping?
No, not that I know of. No.
Oh, it's the resin one that has the scraping, because there is
no.
We've never seen.
No, then one of them, one of the birds, and now I'm getting lost, and I thought it was one of the lead ones, has a scraping mark, or what someone claims is a scraping mark, but I don't know if that's one of the lead ones now, or if that's something the other guy is saying about one of his.
We're going to end up. We're going to end up with a documentary murder board of all the
exactly.
Falcons,
lots of string around pins, string and stuff. And I do hope, I don't know, I would love to see. Obviously, you kind of hope and pray one of these ends up, I don't know, in the Academy Museum or the Smithsonian or something. Yeah. I mean, those seem like some logical endpoints. And also in terms of, sorry, I'm back to Steve Wynn for a second, because, he would always put his paintings and stuff on display at the museum, but he never displayed the Falcon, which is sort of somewhat disappointing. I don't know.
Well, there is an interesting strata of the prop collecting community, of the memorabilia collecting community. I'm not saying that Steve Wynn is one of these, but there is a strata of people who like to buy something surpassingly rare and pull it so that no one gets to see it but them.
Yes.
That is a particular kink. And I look, people who find their kink, my hat's off to them. It's just not I want to share, right? And
but he does share Picasso's. So it's a funny thing that here's my Picasso's, you can't look at my bird. I don't know, but who knows? Yeah.
You can always get another Picasso, but there's only one Maltese Falcon.
Well, except there's 7 of them. I think we've counted up a lot of them.
Still more Picassos.
The question you're ultimately getting to is this lovely question about truth. And as storytellers, all 3 of us who tell stories in different media under different conditions, truth is always this thing that is high on people's list to discuss, and in the course of storytelling, lower in the hierarchy of the things that really matter.
It falls away very quickly.
It does fall away because there are factual truths, and then there are intrinsic human truths. And I like the idea of thinking, as you said, that Steve Wynn hasn't put the bird on display. Well, that tells me that it has a value to him that is particularly personal, and I'm always interested in that kind of intersection. That's a high I keep chasing myself here in the cave.
Yeah, I'd love to know. I'd just love to know. And again, like I said, I met him once or twice a long, long time ago. But I'd love to know, like, is he a fan of the movie? Was he a fan of the book? Like, what, and why?
Saw when he was a kid.
Because again, we don't know what else he has. But I guess I'll simply say, he's not known for a lot of other props. That doesn't mean he doesn't have them, but it's sort of like, it seems like it's the Falcon and then a lot of Picasso's. So it's just a very specific thing that's kind of wonderful, knowing that it's that important to him. I would love to know more. It would be wild to get to see his. That would be insane. But I do keep hoping one of these will end up in the museum, whether it's on permanent whatever part of their collection or simply lent to them and put on display would obviously be incredible. Yeah.
If I ever come across a casting, if I ever came across one, I'd love to gift one to the Academy. You're right. I think the Smithsonian should have one. And I love this idea about what is original and when is the simulacra so accurate that it dissolves into being a real thing without any. There's a terrific Stanislaw Lem science fiction story called Something Something and the Princess Ineffable, in which a terrible dictator is captured and imprisoned, but they're not monsters. So they know that he's a dictator, so they give him a computerized planet to rule over, and they've made it a very, very high level simulacrum with a populace and everything. And when they come back to the prison planet they've abandoned him on, he's been overthrown by the simulacrum of the society he's been given to rule over.
That's his punishment.
That's his punishment. And I feel like the Falcon is at this point in that type of zone where the simulacrum and the original thing have merged in a way that is abiding and infects both halves of the equation.
Yeah, I guess I will simply say I have no idea, but I'll take any of them. Let me say that. I'll take any of them at all. I was going to actually ask you, Adam, and I'm not looking for you to throw anyone under the bus or whatever, but in your world of, obviously you've made your own, there are so many people and places out there making, you can buy a replica. And is there any you've seen where you go, that's a great one, if like someone wanted to actually buy one, kind of a thing? Or do you travel in that world, or you pay less attention?
No, I do travel in that world. There have been a couple of wonderful, wonderful replicas made on the Replica Props Forum. I own one of every one. I still like my bird the best.
Sure.
But that's just because it's mine.
Yep.
I will tell you that when I first made this, it was my early days of Mythbusters, and I had television money. So I cast, I think, 30 of these, and I sent them to a whole bunch of different friends. So if you're at Rick Baker's house or John Landis, they'll have a Falcon.
They have
on their
one
shelf,
of yours?
That's mine.
That's great.
And I'm pleased to say that of all the 30 that I gave out to different friends, nobody has recast it. Like mine, I would recognize mine.
Even though you basically gave something to 30 recasters, more or less. You gave them, you basically took a prop and sort of said, here's this very special thing, and then sent it to 30 guys that could do it in their sleep. That's actually to your credit. Now,
Incredible.
Bigger question. Are all 30 still in their possessions, or have you ever seen any of yours on the secondary market? There's
never seen any of mine on the secondary market.
All right, third question.
By that.
Third question: would one of them sell one of them to me? There's your question. There's the next question.
we can work something out to connect you guys up. That shouldn't be an issue. The problem is that I still have yet to achieve the bird of my dreams, because after going through the sculpting and the casting and the mold making and the lost wax investment, I ended up with a bronze version of this that is like an inch and a quarter smaller than the original, and thus it makes me crazy.
Makes you insane. Just makes you full on insane.
About 4 or 5 years ago, I went to an artist colony in Aspen, and I spent time resculpting based on some photogrammetry. I had this bird, but this is the only casting that survived the process, and it would take so long to finish. It's sort of been sitting here making me crazy.
Kind of haunting you.
I have a couple more wax masters. I'm never going to be fully done with this project. It is always going to be a literal boat anchor on my soul to keep on making versions of this bird.
It's your hunt continuing in your own way. It's like on to what does he say at the what is it, like on to Portugal or wherever they're going at the end? I can't remember the exact line. It's like on to
Zanzibar.
Blank. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have an old friend who
you idiot.
A couple of
he
drinks.
Switched it.
Oh, you stupid fat-bloated idiot. Yes, Ren and Stimpy even. I have a friend who, after a couple of drinks, can just do endless impressions of Sidney Greenstreet from that film, and it is so much fun to listen to.
I'm going to ask this question. Is that friend Dana Gould? Because that sounds like a Dana Gould. No, that sounds like Dana Gould could do that. But anyway, that's very up Dana Gould. It'd be Dana Gould or the ghost of Gilbert Gottfried, one of the two. But okay, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So should we Should we play the game? Should we call it, Dave?
Well,
What
how
do
do
you
we
think?
play the Maltese Falcon other than the Falcon? What do we? Or
No, you have to do that's that. So Adam, at the end of every episode, we play a game. We talk about a specific movie. Obviously, the movie is the Maltese Falcon in this case, and then we play a game of what would you take home from the movie if you could have anything. But the rule in this
Falcon
particular
or
case,
Falcon, by the way. Do you say Falcon or Falcon?
I say Falcon.
I
I'm
say
not.
Falcon.
I'm not fancy pants like you, Dave.
I think I say Falcon. I wonder why I say Falcon.
give me
I have
the
no idea.
I went to
no
the.
idea. Why am I?
I went to
saying
a junior
Falcon?
college, so but I think in this case we have to play the Maltese Falcon, but you can't have the Falcon. So what else do you take home from that movie? As three people who know the movie very well.
I'm going to answer so quickly it's going to shock you. You ready? And it's very specific.
Yeah.
I want the plate of glass from the Sam Spade office. Either version, either the Archer, the Spade and Archer, or the Spade one. Yeah. That is what I want. That plate of glass. There's my answer. Yeah.
Son of a.
Was that you were going to say literally the same thing? Oh, that's great. That's good.
I love that answer. My first thought went right to Sidney Greenstreet's entire suit, the white suit with the vest.
That'd be insanely cool. Yes.
Right. I mean, just there's something about those old movies when a truly iconic performance shows up and steals every scene that it's in. We can easily forget how modern those performances can feel and how much those great actors bring to stuff. Like, we just think of black and white movies as primitive, and Sidney Greenstreet's performance in that is such a world stopper of a performance.
I think I quoted on my high school yearbook page, everyone was given a half a page where you could like do what it was like. You got to control it. You could put, some people just filled it with pictures. Some people did nothing. There's the cool kid who's it's just white space with his name and that kind of stuff. But most of us, just put relevant quotes, as they say, of which, in my year, most of them were people quoting, "This is the time to remember because it will not last forever. These are the days to hold on to," by Billy Joel, which I'm sure they all regret at this point. But anyway, I was going to use, actually, I don't think I've even told you this, Ryan. I was going to use the stuff dreams are made of, the stuff that dreams are made of. Oh. And someone else was using it, a guy that loved the movie as well. And I think I ended up using from Gutman, like something like, "I do so love a man who loves to talk," or "I do so love talking to a man who loves to talk." I don't remember the full on quote, but I think that's on my yearbook half page. That's so it's this one's been with me for a while. So
you have to look that up and put it on the feed, Dave.
I will find a picture of my yearbook page.
Yes.
I think that's what it was, unless I'm telling it in reverse. And he took the "I do so love a man who likes to talk," and I ended up with the stuff dreams are made of, which would be ironic if that's on my yearbook page. That would be very funny.
Well, we have to find out.
Yeah, I gotta call my mother and get her to take a picture. Getting her to take an iPhone picture of my yearbook page, that'll only take 4 years. So, we'll get right on that.
Stay tuned. After two great answers, I'm sort of it sucks that I'm in third over here, but I have this, it's possibly a constructed memory, but I have a memory of when the woman comes into the Spade and Archer office. Doesn't she have a business card that she brings in? Isn't there
Bridget O'Shaughnessy?
Yeah. Don't we see
at that
a
point she's
card?
Wanda Wonderly, but I thought she maybe just has the name of her hotel. She may have a business card from the guy she wants them to follow. I gotta
with a thing. Yeah. Well, she brings in,
by the
something.
way, Mary. Yeah, she brings in something, and whatever that something is, that's what you
want. That's the thing I want. Yeah.
Mary Astor. Sorry, now we're gonna get very
Mary
nerdy
Astor.
for a second.
Yeah.
Mary Astor. It's a little too old. A little too old. When you go back to the book, she should have been a little, I don't know, a little bit sort of younger, more dangerous. I don't know. That's my one criticism of the film. I'll just simply say. But,
let's get John Huston on the line, and he can. We share a birthday.
His first movie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, incredible.
And Bogey, by the way, just in terms of, leveling up into, had been around, and then that movie comes out, and it kind of, in that same way, just sort of, again, Casablanca later on, but defines him, just in terms of, his career, but also just a little bit of everything, which is kind of wild.
He really, there is nobody else who quite grabs the Sam Spade, Philip Marlowe quite as hard as Bogey does. I was just listening to, I traveled a bunch recently, and I listened to probably 20 hours of Karina Longworth. You must remember this.
Yeah.
And I just finished the whole Hollywood Blacklist series, which included a couple of Bogey flashback episodes, which is just absolutely fascinating, about how long he was a journeyman stage actor bouncing back and forth between Broadway and LA. I had no idea about that stuff.
Yeah, and it was a coup that he was cast not as a villain, right? Because that was the big,
no one's idea of a leading man. And there's that famous quote, I think by him actually, where he talks about how he became this sort of sex symbol, and he basically says, well, when making Casablanca, when she when Ingrid Bergman looks at you that way, it makes you a sex symbol, because she's sort of giving the rest of the world permission. Like, her ability to look at you like you're the sexiest man alive makes people start to think you're the sexiest man alive. I will end on this one stupid thought, or maybe not end, but my one last stupid thought on casting, because obviously you can draw that line from Humphrey Bogart sort of as Sam Spade and certainly as Rick, right to Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Perhaps he is the Sam Spade that never was, the guy that never got to quite play it. If you just think a little bit indie, a little bit of that. I mean, again, maybe sometimes, maybe not that he threw in that little comedy lilt to it, but you could sort of see his version of it, the world weary, doesn't give a shit kind of guy.
I really love that, because up until you suggested that, Elliot Gould has always been my favorite. From Altman's The Long Goodbye.
Long Goodbye.
But you're right. Ford is always holding a little something back for himself that is perfect for that character.
And there's obviously there are connections to Deckard, obviously the private eye a little bit, if you will, but a different thing. But I think, but I don't know. To me, the never was, so to speak. But anyway.
Well, I always loved the fact that Ridley Scott gave Deckard a textual line that was always the subtext of any of Hammett or Chandler's books, which is that I felt some connection between her and me. This connection, I couldn't figure out what it was. He's actually saying that in the text.
He says it out loud,
the subtext of all the other books.
That's the quiet part.
Subtext made text is one of my favorite literary devices in film. It's just always something I enjoy. And the godhead of that is Grosse Pointe Blank, a film where all the subtext is text.
There's a great line. I think it's in, it's in one of Whit Stillman's movies, but I think it's in Barcelona, where Chris Eigenmann, who's always so goddamn funny in those movies, says something like, I know what subtext is, but what do you call the stuff above it? And the other guy just goes, text. Or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but I truly.
I've been thinking about Whit Stillman and Hal Hartley a lot lately. Thinking about how important they were to me in my early 20s, and how I want to go back and watch some of those films.
Those movies, they hold up. They are.
Do they really?
They are delicate little confections, because if you sat down, I don't know, as a screenwriter, you would never write the structure or anything about those movies that those guys make, but they make them. Yes. Yeah. They make them. Yeah. Which is wonderful.
I put them in a category with Nicholas Roeg for that exact reason.
But I will say the problem with all of those guys, no good props. Let's just be honest. No, not great prop movies. We've yet to go, what do you want from Metropolitan, I guess. So not great prop movies. I'm just simply, it's a criticism, take it as you will. It's prop podcast, not great prop movies, wonderful films. Yeah.
My wife and I quote Chris Eichmann all the time from Noah Baumbach's first movie, Kicking and Screaming.
Oh, yep.
In which he is on the date with a townie who later ended up playing one of Don Draper's love interests. And he says to the townie who's about to confront the guy in the car, stop! He would already rather be bow hunting, because that is the bumper sticker on the guy's car. We always say that. He'd already rather be bow hunting.
And I think on that note...
There we go.
Yeah.
Guys, listen,
that's the title of the episode.
Anytime. Call me up at the last minute. This is my favorite kind of discussion. I just, I could do this for hours.
Thank you.
You just like it because we literally didn't really make you build anything. So next time, it's just like I feel like every time I see you somewhere, people are making you work. They invite you on as a guest, and then they like put you to work. It's like, hey, I've got a show, Adam, where you come on and clean my garage. So I didn't want to say this at the beginning, but I'm very pleased that while you held up a couple of things, but I feel like we just got to actually talk to you, and we didn't make you work for your supper. So
I think
funny.
I think he's cast 3 Maltese Falcons back there while we've been talking. I think he's been at it.
But we didn't make him.
That's true. Yeah. He did it out of his own
But you
volition.
also talk about singing for your supper brings up a hierarchy of talk show guests that I have learned over the years, which is that unless a certain amount of the population wants to sleep with you, you have to do something for your talk show appearance. Even Gordon Ramsay has to cook when he shows up.
Yeah.
You definitely
the actors and actresses
look at me. Yes, exactly. But we were very, very pleased to just talk with you and not force you into indentured servitude. So I feel like this will be one of your great podcast appearances where no one made you do anything. You actually sat down for 95% of it. So I was very pleased.
I appreciate that. Well, and hopefully the first of several.
Great. Let's
be back. We will have you back.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
guys,
Adam.
When you're up in San Francisco, come by the cave.
That would be wonderful. And if you're down in LA, love to say hi. If you want to grab a bite or something, please let's do that thing.
100%. One of my goals for 23 is to get a gig that brings me to LA for like a month or so. I just want to spend that much time down there.
That would be
somebody
very fun.
Please come visit me in London because it's very dark and very lonely.
I'm coming out next year, man. I'm totally coming out next year.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna figure that out. Thank you, and this was amazing.
This was wonderful.
Join us next week.
Obviously, you can find Adam on all of all the YouTube, Tested. What else? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to say?
I'm the real Adam Savage on Instagram, and Tested is the YouTube channel. That's the primary interface for the world right now.
Great, and subscribe to us on YouTube at our slightly smaller subscribe channel. The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of.
If 1% of the tested audience could just subscribe to us,
just click it.
We would
change our lives.
Multiply our viewers by billions. I believe that would literally be billions. Yeah, like a 1 billion percentage increase. Yeah.
I will do what I can.
Follow us at Props Podcast on all your social media. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Download, subscribe, and rate the podcast. And we have an email that I never remember.
dreamsaremadeofpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys
so much,
Bye.
Man.